One of the best gifts you can give your kids is the gift of financial competency. My name is Kristina Strickland. I'm the managing partner of Rally Wealth and Benefits, and today we're going to take a deep dive look at what it means to raise financially competent kids. And so really we can break that down into 4 distinct topics, if you will. The first one is, how does money work? So I think in general, the idea or concept of teaching kids how money works. Some of you have probably experienced this. For example, I take my 8-year-old daughter out to Starbucks almost every week after her horseback riding lesson. It's kind of a reward of, hey, you worked hard, you groomed your horse, you cleaned up after them, let's go get a cake pop or a pink drink after your horse lesson. Well, recently I left my wallet at home. And so I said to her, I said, hey, I'm so sorry, we can't go to Starbucks today, I left my wallet at home. And she said, but can't you just use your phone? Referring to the Apple Wallet on my phone, which I do have. But that made me think really long and hard about, she has no concept of where this Starbucks fund is coming from. She thinks if you have a phone or a piece of plastic in your wallet, that equals Starbucks. And so we kind of had a conversation about, hey, look, when you get your pink drink or your cake pop or whatever it is that you're getting at Starbucks, it costs, I think for her, it's like $6. Where does that $6 come from? You know, mom and dad have to work for that, or you have to do chores, or we've got to take that out of our grocery budget, or some sort of concept for her. How does money work? In that it is an actual tangible object, and when you run out, you run out. Not just if you have phone, you can buy whatever you need. So that's the first one. How does money work? The second one is making intentional decisions, which I kind of hit on in how money works. What we've done in our family is we have every Sunday night a budget conversation with our children. Some families get super detailed in this. Some families don't go into any detail at all. But what we do is we, on Sundays, say, hey, look, children, for the next week, this is the money we get to spend on food. This is the money we get to spend going out to eat, or buying birthday gifts, or getting Starbucks after horse lessons, those types of things. So what we do is we go through our calendar, what are the events coming up in the week, and then what is the money available for the week. And where that making intentional decisions comes in is we might say, okay, look, it's Sunday night, we're planning out our week. Friday night, my nephew Carter has a soccer game. It's an hour drive away. So we'll probably go out to eat on the way to or from that soccer game. So every kid, my husband and I, were all aware of that. Well, then throughout the week, something else will come up. Theo, my son, will decide he wants to buy some Roblox because he plays that game all the time. And so that will be a conversation. If we spend the money on this video game instead, or going to Starbucks, or stopping at Quick Trip after soccer for an extra snack or drink, or whatever it is that's going on in your life, right? If we spend this money, when we had our conversation on Sunday and we planned where every dollar was going to go, we earmarked every dollar. If we are adding a new item to our list, where will those dollars come from? And again, I think that's part of that concept of money is a finite object. It does not go on forever. And so if we're saying yes to buying something, this is the biggest thing for my family. If I'm saying yes to purchasing XYZ, what am I saying no to? Because those dollars were not just sitting there looking for a home. All of those dollars were already planned. So saying yes to this means I have to say no to something else. And so that's a big part of the conversation with kids. And it's so easy. You know, hey, mom, can we stop for ice cream after church on Sunday? Sure, but what are we gonna give up to do that? Where are those dollars gonna come from? And as soon as our kids start to have those wheels turning, they will very quickly start to understand the concept of money. The other concept that I think is super important is that of delayed gratification. And I think it's so interesting because some of you may have heard this concept and maybe you haven't, but it's a concept I heard a long time ago and I think it's really important. The idea was the better we do at teaching our children today, the less things we have to clean up as adults. And here's what I mean by that. Our children can be taught the concept of delayed gratification. Theoretically, the less credit card debt and consumer debt we have to clean up as adults. Because what happens is, as kids, if we just get everything we want the minute we want it, then in adulthood, we've kind of been conditioned that everything we want, we just get it when we want it. Unfortunately, as adults, if you don't have that money, it's probably coming from a debt source, right? I may not have enough money to buy new tires on my car, so I might just swipe a credit card. Because as a child, every time I wanted something, it was immediately available. Not saying that that's how everyone does it, but that is a very common theme, specifically in America, in our consumer society. So if we can teach our children, you want to buy this $30 object at Target, but you only get $5 a week for doing your chores. Let's have a conversation about if you save your chore money every week, eventually you'll be able to buy this item from Target. What I see happen a lot, specifically with my kids, is they'll think, oh, I really want that $30 item at Target, but I only have $5. So what can I spend $5 on instead? And we need to reframe that conversation of, again, if you really want this big item from Target, let's have a conversation about how much should you be saving every week to get to buy that item. And I think that in the long run, the child is probably happier with the bigger item that they wanted to begin with, but there's that need to check off a box or fill something right away. And so maybe that conversation looks like, hey, I know you only got $5 this week for allowance. Why don't you go ahead and pick something that's $1 or $2 that you can go ahead and get now, but let's save $3 for that bigger item that we want later. And again, this is all just habits, right? The easier it is to learn as young children, the easier it will be to carry those good habits into adulthood. The other thing is connecting money to values. So there's again a very real concept and understanding that children need to have, that money comes from effort and value. And so one of the things that we do with our children, and I've learned this, everything I'm sharing about things we do with children, they're all just ideas that I stole from mentors and families that are quite frankly doing a better job than me. So if I'm sharing it, it's not that I'm saying, oh, look at our family, we're amazing. It's I'm saying, hey, here's what I've learned from other people. And so one of the things I've learned from other people is that children need to understand, again, that money comes from effort and from value creation. An example of that is kids get paid for chores, or they get paid for pet sitting, or they mow the lawn in the summer, or some way that a child creates value in the family ecosystem and is rewarded with money. And so then when they choose to spend money or they ask the parents for money, the conversation is, well, where's that money gonna come from? And a good example of that in our family is my son literally sent a text to my husband and I yesterday, and he said, hey, what do I have to do to earn $20? Because he saw something online that he wanted to buy and it was $20. So he sends this text to my husband and I, hey, what do I have to do to earn $20? And my husband sends him back a list of like 4 different things that he could do. It was like laundry, he could change the litter boxes for the cats, he could reload all of the horses' feed bins, some other items that he could choose to do to earn $20. And he very quickly said, no thanks, I don't want to. To which my husband responded, then you must not actually want this item you're trying to buy. Because they need to understand that there's real effort required to purchase things. And again, I think that a lot of families are doing a great job in this, but we'll see with adults today, there are a ton of Americans walking around with quite a bit of credit card and consumer debt. And so it's just, how do we teach our children? And I don't know about every family, but in our family, my husband and I have kind of acknowledged that we didn't do as good of a job with money as young adults as we would have liked to. And we certainly expect better things for our kids. So our goal of teaching them financial competency comes a lot from, hey, don't do it the way we did. Our goal and our education for ourselves was that we really just learned through mistakes. And so as parents, we're hoping that our children will learn through correct behavior and correct modeling so that they don't have to learn from mistakes. So in general, teaching your kids the trade-offs, needs versus wants, decision-making, delayed gratification, any sort of combination of those things that you can do for your kids should really help set them up for success in the future.